To the Commonwealth of Massachusetts rode a stranger one fine day. Was a New Vegas ranger, wouldn't be too long in town. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Kellogg. She was here to take him in alive or maybe dead, and to do that, she's asking you, can you beat Fallout 4 with only a big iron on your hip? First of all, right off the bat, I'm not going to play Fallout 4 the normal way, okay? I just can't stand the pre-war segment, and I can't stand the concerned parent from the past role. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, okay? Plenty of people, by which I mean at least 2, have proven plenty of times, by which I mean at least 2, that you can get through Vault 111 without killing anything. I can't be bothered to prove it again. I don't want to play it. Okay. Crybaby rant over. To specify, I'm going to be using the Start Me Up Redux mod to skip through the garbage, make me not a pre-written character, and just get right into the game from right outside Vault 111. I'll need to go back in there later for story reasons, but I've got other stuff to talk about. To start, I start my life like all women do, in a dream sequence fueled by my psychic connection to a pre-war vault dweller. Unlike with the Some Guy series, I have to have an actual strategy here when it comes to specials. Based on my calculations, I'll need a strength of 7, charisma of 3, agility of 8, and luck of 5. Other point distribution doesn't really matter. I don't use any of Start Me Up's added options, such as traits and starting level, instead just spawning in outside Vault 111 with nothing but a Vault 114 jumpsuit. Immediately, I run through Sanctuary, across the bridge, and along the river, where a big iron is already waiting for me. I use 2 of the 5 bullets on a mongrel standing near it. I ignore Codsworth and Preston, instead skipping both and running to Trash Can Carla in the hopes that she has 44 ammo. She has no 44 ammo. My next order of business. Order up. I agree to help Wolfgang, try save scumming to convince Trudy to pay him, give up, and try fighting them. I miss 2 bullets. My last connects with Wolfgang. Now I'm fully reliant on Fallout 4's god-awful combat AI to do the job for me. After maybe 2 full minutes, Trudy and Patrick manage to kill Wolfgang and Simone. She doesn't have any 44 ammo. Well, with 0 bullets in a dream, I run into Cambridge, where I hope Dance can handle the ghouls on his own, and also hope that these guys notorious for using energy weapons have even a single round of 44 ammo in their base. They don't. Why would they? I run all the way to Diamond City, ignore most of Piper and Mayor McDonald's agreement, and check all the vendors for 44 ammo. Percy has no 44 ammo. Myrna has no 44 ammo. Arturo has... Okay. I sit down on a stool for the next 3 days so their stocks refresh. No 44 ammo. I do Piper's interview for the free XP, then return to Drumlin Diner to see if Trudy has any 44 ammo. She doesn't have any 44 ammo. I'm so angry I could kick a bucket. Bunker Hill, no 44 ammo. Good Neighbor, no 44 ammo. I feel like I'm losing my mind at this point. I vaguely remember the possibility that 44 ammo might not spawn on vendors until I reach a certain level. Okay, well, alright. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I didn't want to have to do this. I make my way to Sega's Ironworks, walk past all the forge between me and the blast furnace, and take the issue of picket fences right next to Slag. I ignore Slag and Jake, instead running away and returning to Sanctuary. I use the scrap stored duplication method to duplicate a lot of copper, then immediately use that copper to build a lot of statues. I level up about 10 times, return to Diamond City, and all the vendors have 44 ammo. 100 rounds of them between them. Almost 2 hours into the playthrough, the game can actually begin now that I have any ammo at all. I return to Vault 111, where I discover a corpse with holotape recording and learn a baby was kidnapped. Having already been to Diamond City, I know exactly where to ask for help. Valentine's detective agency. However, I'm told by the detective's secretary that he's been taken captive by some mobsters in Vault 114, so I set out to save him. When I reach the subway, I take things slowly and carefully, as I know that my bullets and stims are going to fly by quickly if I'm not. The Triggermen are kind enough to give me not 1, but 2 legendary armor pieces. How kind of them. When I reach him, I kill Dino with a single bullet, which is fortunate on account of me running low on them. Nick leads me through the vault, taking charge in combat since I don't have the bullets to take on the Triggermen myself. Eventually, however, Nick was downed with 3 enemies left and 1 bullet in my cylinder. I made the decision to start bashing. Technically, this isn't really forbidden, but I just wanted to withhold on gun bashing unless absolutely necessary, as it kind of just circumvents the point of the challenge. I had to do it here in order to progress, so I did. Nick and I confronted Skinny. I managed to talk Darla into leaving and to return to her family. Without Darla to feed his temper, Skinny saw sense and allowed Nick and I to walk. Free from his prison, Nick agreed to meet me back in Diamond City. I, however, took a bit of a detour back near Sagus Ironworks. I discovered a pump station with a locked door, which I used my big brain, and the code being on the wall, to determine the code for. Behind the door was a legendary revolver named the Gainer, which added an additional bonus of 15 flame damage on hit. Out of the 3 guaranteed legendary revolvers, Kellogg's pistol, Eddie's piece, and this one, this is the only one with an effect that I can use or that I can acquire at all, so it's better than nothing. It's also one added by the Noir Penthouse Creation Club item, but no. I hit up the Diamond City traders for more ammo and stims before talking to Nick about the kidnapping recorded on holotape and the people murdered by the kidnappers. Nick proposed that it may have been the Institute, then asks if I heard the name Kellogg. I didn't, but that's our only lead. So Nick and I head to his house to search for clues. The lock was too strong for either of us to pick, so Nick points me toward the mayor's office to request a key. Piper was there, yelling at the mayor's secretary and refusing to answer my questions. Geneva also refuses to give me a key, so I call her useless. McDonald agrees to give me the key without a problem, so I return to Nick and we search inside. Within seconds, I find a button to his man cave, which has a distinct scent of body odor and old cheese. Dog meat can track this. Nick whistles a special tone that only dog meat can hear, summoning him from across the map to our location. Dogmeat sniffs out Kellogg's stench, then sets off after him. I ignored Dogmeat and returned to Sanctuary to cook my armor from so long ago back together. Looks good as new, doesn't it? After a quick round around the vendors for ammo, I set off toward Fort Hagen on my own. No dog needed. I run past the turrets on the building and enter through the roof, easily killing the synths on the top floor before making it to the stairs. That's where I notice Dogmeat, who is my companion. Well, it's alright. I just kill the nearby synths before Dogmeat can get a hit on them, then crouch until we exit combat so I can dismiss him. Aside from Dogmeat's intervention, the rest of Fort Hagen is a breeze, to the point that I had to check if I was still on normal, then upped it to hard. That was more like it. I now had to use actual strategy instead of standing in the open and shooting fools. Speaking of shooting fools, I came face to face with Kellogg, who told me that Sean was gone. I told him that I packed my revolver, and I was going to use it to send him back to hell. No fancy cinematic sequence this time. His synths went down easily, just 2 or 3 bullets each. Kellogg and I played a bit of Catgirl and Mouseboy. He, like a bitch, kept using Stealth Boys, which made it difficult for my blind eye to see him. After hitting him, he got set on fire, which made it a bit easier. Finally, after a drawn-out duel, the grizzled merc got his brains blown out. While fiddling around in his pockets, I discovered that he had a bunch of implants. At least 3 of them. He was barely human. I step outside and smell something putrid in the air. The Brotherhood of Steel. I return to Nick in Diamond City. Piper's in his office talking about me. I've had nightmares like this. The two realize I've walked in and ask about what happened with Kellogg. I say that I turned his brain into a slushie. With Kellogg dead, our way into the Institute is gone, but Nick had another plan. The memory den in Good Neighbor has special pods that let you relive memories. Sounds like it'd be handy when I forget where to put my phone mere seconds after putting it down. Lucky for us, I brought along a little thingy from Kellogg's brain that I planned on using as a hood ornament. I told Nick to meet me at the den, then did some buying and trading before fast traveling there. The great Clockwork Dick worked his womanizing with the owner of the den before we went into the basement to talk to Dr. Frankenstein. I informed her that she'd be reversing death itself. She was all for it. I gave her Kellogg's brain. She was happy about a hippopotamus, but I don't really understand what that had to do with the task at hand. Nick agreed to have Kelly plugged into his brain. I agreed to have Kellic plugged into mine. I paid close attention to Kellogg's memory, taking in every detail. That girl kinda looks like me. took a hot chocolate break during the last memory, and returned knowing that the Institute learned teleportation sometime between their birth and conception. Amari and I discussed the memories. An Institute scientist Kellogg was sent after, named Virgil, was hiding in the glowing sea. She said I needed a plan to get there safely. I made up my mind. I'm gonna cross the glowing sea naked. Fingers crossed I'll get more superpowers. Approaching the edge of the glowing sea, I walked beside a house that contained a death claw. I put a few rounds in it, but they barely tickled it. While trying to run, I spotted a Brotherhood vertibird in the air, so I ran toward it, hoping that either they'd kill the death claw or it'd be too distracted by them to come after me. What happened next was more than I could have expected. Me, the Brotherhood, Raiders, Super Mutants, and a Deathclaw were all engaged in combat. I have no idea what happened to the Deathclaw, but as I tried evading the situation, a Super Mutant bomber chased me. I nearly got killed by another Super Mutant blocking my path while it was close, but I managed to get far enough away to avoid the bomber. I turned around, crouched, and with a lucky shot, both mutants were sent to an irradiated afterlife. Pulling back out to the glowing sea, I stripped off all my clothes. You thought I was joking about that, didn't you? Early into my travel, I encountered another Deathclaw. I attempted to sneak around it, but it wasn't gonna work, so I opened fire. Utilizing my environment, I jumped over this highway. Or fence? I don't know. Sure, highway fence as I shot it, forcing it to try to go around in order to catch me. I taunted it a bit before killing it and carried on. The rest of the path to Virgil was uneventful. It truly is amazing how the most dangerous place in the Commonwealth only does 1 tick of rad damage per second, when the only rad resistance I have is from Rad-X. I put my clothes back on after entering Virgil's cave, wouldn't want him seeing my cocker balls, and introduced myself. Virgil accused me of being with the Institute. I'm not, but I wanted a way in. We found common ground, agreeing to help each other. He'd help me kill a courser and draw plans for a teleporter to get inside, and I'd give him a cure for his FEV problem. With no new superpowers, to my knowledge at least, I returned to the real world to hunt a courser. Thankfully, I already knew where he was. Green Tech Geniatrix. The gunners all did so little damage to me individually that I decided it was unfair. I raised the difficulty from hard to very hard to compensate and continued my path to the top. Even on very hard, I didn't have much of a problem with the gunners, aside from one that kept shooting me with missiles. When I reached Courser, I tried picking up some pizzas. Name, fuck you. He didn't find that very funny. Our duel began with him using a stealth boy. Just like Kellogg, I found it easier to shoot him while he was on fire. His laser barely tickled me, but I still used strategic cover regardless. After about 30 bullets and 3 stealth boys, he went down and I dug around in his head for the Courser chip. I returned to Dr. Frankenstein in the hopes that she can decode the chip. She can't, so she points me towards some of her friends, the railroad. I already followed the Freedom Trail earlier while searching for Good Neighbor, so I know exactly where the railroad is. Old North Church. I shot all the ghouls, played with a little secret agent decoder thing, and got blinded by some lights. My blinders introduced themselves as the railroad. Deacon showed up and backed up my claims of killing a courser. They agreed to help me decode it. We stepped into the HQ, violating their security protocols, and talked to Tinker Tom, the one man for the job. Tom typed away on his terminal, while I zoned out and stared at a wall. When I came back, they provided me with a holotape containing all the data. I agreed to assist Deacon with securing the prototype, then ignored him to talk to Virgil. He hands over the teleporter schematics and tells me I'll probably need some assistance in putting them together. You may have noticed that I have not done any of the introduction quests for any of the factions. This is because I initially didn't know who I wanted to side with. I decided here and now that I'd side with the Minutemen, which is what I do in every normal playthrough anyway. I stroll into Concord and finally assist Preston with the raiders troubling him. Since I'm expected to do this quest at level 2, and I am level 24, it's a breeze to say the least. I save Preston, then ask him about Virgil's schematics. He tells me that he can help me if I get him out of this pinch first. He, me, and Sturgy discuss the power armor on the roof. I accidentally set Sturge's on fire. I walk out to the roof, put on the armor, and ignore the minigun, obviously. I use my giant armored fingers to snipe baddies with my revolver from the roof. When the first wave was dead, I dropped down to charge at the second head-on, causing the Deathclaw to crawl out of the sewers. I managed to fight and kill the Deathclaw pretty easily, ducking, weaving, and dodging past all of its attacks. When it hits the ground, I turn to mop up the rest of the raiders. When they're just as dead as the claw, I hop out of my armor and return to Preston. He has some unique dialogue about how I ignored him the first time I was in Concord. I've never heard it before. That's neat. I tell him about the schematics again, and he exits dialogue, skipping over the segment where Sturges interrupts an argument, and sending them all on their way to Sanctuary. In their short walk, I walk back to Diamond City to stock up on goods and bads, then walk all the way back to discuss the signal interceptor. For the third time, I bring it up with Preston, but first he sends me to 10 Pines Bluff to help some helpless villagers. I talk to 10 and Pine, who send me to Walden Pond to deal with the 4 raiders hiding there. Easiest job of my career. I return to Tennessee, who is happy with my work. I inform Preston that they've decided to join the Minutemen. Now, he's more than happy to help me with the Institute. I level up 2 times in our conversation. That's insane. Hi, this is Editing Parable. That's not true. That's just not true. That didn't happen. I don't know why I said that. I think maybe when I wrote that, I was referring to when something like that happened way later at the end, but it beats me. I don't know. I talk to Sturges about the teleporter. He gives me non-specific instructions on how to slap it together, then tells me to stand on the platform. He hands me a holotape telling me to use it to scan the Institute's network. As the interceptor falls apart, Sturges sends me into the Institute, and I use the holotape to scan the Institute. I'm greeted by a voice over the intercom that tells me to get into the elevator. I take a nap, standing up during the ride, ignoring the rest of his speech and taking in none of the sights. I finally, after searching for days maybe, managed to find that kidnapped baby. He is a child now. An old man walks into the room, and I immediately shoot him in the face with my gun. That really makes the Institute angry, so I run past all the tin boys they send after me and escape. I inform Sturges and Preston about the Institute, declaring war on them. Preston tasks me with recruiting more settlements to the Minutemen. I kind of don't want to do that. Unironically, settlements are probably my favorite part of Fallout 4. That's not really saying much considering how little else I like about it, but I spend so much time doing settlement stuff in regular playthroughs that I just don't want to now. But I've already screwed up an Institute and, by extension, Railroad playthrough, and I don't want to do a Brotherhood run because why would I? So I guess it's time for me to pucker up and deal with the consequences of my own actions. Since I'm sure neither of us want to talk about it, I'll skip over the settlement recruiting part. But eventually, after taking enough of them, Preston informs me that we're ready to take back the Minutemen's old headquarters, the castle. I stocked up on bullets and met him and his crew near this so-called castle. I told him we were just gonna storm the castle and shoot all the crabs between us and the workbench. That's exactly what we do. The crabs barely tickle me when they attack and take 3 to 4 bullets each, but I swear I haven't changed the difficulty. Yet. I will admit, I did just start bashing the Mirelurk spawns when they started to pop out of the eggs, since I can't be bothered to waste bullets on them. After killing most of the Mirelurks and smashing most of the eggs, the queen pops out of the water and we all get to blasting. Unlike her kids, she's actually resistant to my bullets and takes a whole lot more to kill. Her acid spit also really hurts, so I use probably 20 stims throughout the fight, but eventually she burns to death like the rest of her fish family. Mere seconds, and totally not an hour, after taking back the castle, Ronnie Shaw, a former Minuteman, appears and forces her way back in. Ronnie introduced me to the castle armory door. The door was locked, but she had an idea on how to get inside. Apparently, the castle has secret underground tunnels, accessible from the general's quarters. We wade through the flooded They are not flooded. Why did I say that they were? That is not true. That has never been true, and it never will. Anyway, Ronnie steps on 3 different landmines, then we encounter a sentry bot, Sergeant Sarge. Ronnie is entirely useless while Sarge and I take turns setting each other on fire. I, being a fireproof mutant cyborg human thing, prevail. Sarge, being a puny robot, does not, so Ronnie and I can proceed to the armory. Inside the armory is a big old schematic for artillery guns. Conveniently, there's also supplies to build 2 of them. Ronnie and I head topside to fire them and... Oh, yeah, that's real interesting, I returned to Preston for 2 reasons. 1, to finish the quest, and 2, to send him back to the castle. Since I have fewer turrets and soldiers there than I'm used to, it's all hands on deck. All companion hands, that is, as I methodically recruit and dismiss any companion I can, sending them to the castle to guard it for me instead. I think I stole this idea from Nurbit, but I don't remember. I definitely got it from someone, though. Anyway, when I'm done sending the 4 people and dog at my disposal to the castle, I get word that the Institute are attacking. They sent synth crows to scout the area. They've gotta be on the way. I set up as many turrets as I can. Then I fast travel to Sanctuary to grab all my garbage. Then I set up as many turrets as I can. When I'm prepared, the Institute attacks. The first few waves are no match for my flame turrets. Ha ha ha, this is gonna be easy. Oh, uh-oh. They're sending some real tough troops, and my turrets are being shredded. How could it fall apart so fast? While trapped in a hallway with 2 coursers, I puss out and set the game difficulty to very easy, from regular hard. I have no clue when I changed it from very hard to hard, but it sure was. As it turns out, I am either underleveled for this fight, really bad at video games, or both, cause the rest of the enemies are still pretty difficult to fight. Eventually, we beat them back, except for this synth that spawned in the water. Poor bastard never stood a chance. With our victory at the castle, 3 things happen. 1, we become an enemy of the Brotherhood. 2, I set the difficulty back to hard. 3, we're ready to take the fight to the Institute. Sturges managed to find a way inside. The sewers. It was perfect. I do my last rounds at the usual vendors to pick up more rounds. However, when I get to Diamond City, Yuri Lowenthal alerts the town that the mayor was a synth all along. I give Yuri a stim, then head up to the mayor's office to confront him. From the other side of the door, Mayor McKendrick yells at Piper. Piper is not here. I unlock the door to find McTavish pointing a gun at me and his assistant as a hostage. I try to talk him down and get him to stand trial, but he doesn't budge, so I put a few rounds in him and then continue my rounds at the shops. When I'm suitably supplied, I fast travel to the Commonwealth Institute of Technology and hop into the river and swim into the sewers. Holding my breath from the water and the stench, I reach the end of the tube, use the password for the, sewer grate, I guess, and keep plunging into the depths. I immediately get scared of 2 turrets, but then I remember that they can sense my fear, so I bury it and defeat them. I spend a good 5 minutes wandering around the sewers, having no clue where to go. I'll be honest, I haven't finished this game without using the Subversion mod in at least 2 years. Normally, I don't have to do this part. Eventually, I find my way to the real Institute and teleport my Minutemen inside. Sturges asks me to plant some food, and I tell him I'll get right on it. Preston hands me a fancy doohickey and tells me to put it on the reactor when I get a chance. The besties and I fight our way through the old robotics lab, where I kill 2 turrets with 1 shot each, then proceed to the bioscience division, where I'm 80% sure an Institute turret killed one of their own scientists. Either way, we proceed to the Rotunda, where I'm faced with my old nemesis, an invisible enemy. Him being invisible and the room being bright makes it really difficult for me to hit him. Through a combination of luck and 6 different Minutemen, he goes down. Only regular synths from here on out. The scientist doesn't seem particularly impressed with my inability to shoot straight. Screw her, I hope she dies in the explosion. When the guards are all dead, Sturges hijacks the intercom to inform me that I need to get to the director's quarters. In the director's quarters is an emergency override on a terminal in order to unlock all the doors. When I get there, that old guy I murdered is floating in the air. I don't know about you, but I'm glad he's already gone, otherwise I'd be scared. I avoid his ire by pushing him to the ground, then use his terminal to do that thing I mentioned and also tell all the civilians to scram or they'll explode. Except that one scientist, I hope she's dead. I, with no backup, charge into the reactor room and set up the bomb, taking a healthy dose of radiation in the process. I use a stealth boy to slip past all the guards, and Sturges teleports me back to the teleporter. New trouble. A child claims that he's my son. The same child I came here looking for, Sean. I know for many reasons that I am not this child's mother. It is impossible, but he insists, completely sure that he's mine. I don't really want to kill a child, so I tell him he can tag along. And Sturges teleports us all up to the roof of Mass Fusion, where they watch me activate the bomb inside the Institute reactor. So yes, I did in fact beat Fallout 4 with only a big iron on my hip, and almost certainly caused irreversible damage to the ecosystem. This is, with very little exaggeration, the most disorganized playthrough I've ever done. I did just about everything out of order, and it hurt me deep down. Of course, this run was kind of carried by me abusing duplication exploit, so in the future I will do my best to not do that, or any exploit, unless I absolutely need to. I'm not even 100% positive on whether or not I had to do it for this one. No vendors were stocking 44 until I did it, and they immediately had it after. Oh, and I still haven't turned off the frame rate counter. Abrupt ending.